Tēnā koe anō, Ms Thomas.
Ai mihi ana ki a tātou kua hoki mai anō ki roto I tō tātou whare. The kai kōrero or witness we have now, Mum, is Alan Hendricks. It is also my privilege to introduce Douglas Matthews beside Mr Hendricks, who is also a survivor of Lake Alice. And we wanted to introduce these two men today with the following information that Mr Hendricks, I'm just trying to find my dates, my apologies. Mr Hendricks was in Lake Alice from the 8th of May 1974 to the 29th of January 1975. Doug Matthews was in Lake Alice from the 26th of February 1974 and was discharged on the same day as Alan Hendricks on 29th of January 1975. They've only just recently found each other again and have found a lot of support in that connection that they have made. They tell me they talk about 4 times a day in the lead up to this inquiry. So it's my privilege to introduce both of them today. In terms of how we will proceed, Mr Alan Hendricks will be providing the substantive kōrero today, and he will be reading to his statement he's prepared. And Mr Doug Matthews, will close their session with a 10 to 15 minute kōrero that he's prepared. But just so Your Honour and the Commissioners are aware, Mr Matthews' statement that he provided is reference 325001, and that is with the Commissioners now.
All right, thank you. So I think probably out of an excess of caution I should get them both to do an affirmation. Would you agree with that?
Yes, Your Honour.
Yes, all right then, thank you. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you both for coming, and I must...
You know, it's a pretty hard thing to live with. I was in part of Grant Cameron's inquiry, if you like, and I didn't get anything that, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Closure. To him it was all about money. I can't understand. I've been questioned by the FBI. Why has it taken 47 years, you know, to get to this stage again? I was hoping that I'd buried it years ago, but I hadn't.
Thank you for those introductory comments, Alan. Would you like to introduce yourself, Doug?
Hi, I'm Douglas John Matthews. I've come here today to be support for Alan, and since I turned 60, I've hidden it for 46 years.
Thank you, Doug. I think it's really important you're here supporting Alan today, so mihi ana kia korua. So if we just start at paragraph 3, Alan, and just take your time reading through your statement and take any breaks that you need to when you need to.
And can I just say, Alan, and both of you, that we have read your brief of evidence. So if there are parts that you don't want to read out, or, you know, you can skip over things, we have read it all, so we are very familiar with it. Okay. So it's up to you what you want to, how you want to manage this.
All right. I was born in Martin. The 3rd of the 12th ignored me. I wasn't even there. So, yeah, that was pretty hard.
Alan, can I clarify something? He was a nurse there But I think, did you say right at the beginning that he was a nurse up until the time you went in there?
He was a staff member of the adolescent unit.
Right.
To where I was admitted.
And he was...
And
oh, sorry, carry on.
when I got admitted, he was transferred elsewhere in Lake Alice to another villa.
Right. So he remained working at Lake Alice,
Yes, that's
but
correct.
not in the unit where
No,
you were?
no.
Oh, thanks for clarifying that.
And I saw him, like I said, I saw him quite often drive past, you know, whether coming to or going home,
From work.
but didn't acknowledge me. So, yeah.
Return to paragraph 4, Ellen, because I think it's important, this background to your admission into Lake Alice.
In 1967, my parents divorced. My father remarried. My sister, a lawn to mow, gardens to dig, hedges to cut. I'd be there till dark, you know, and everybody else would be inside watching TV and that. And I must admit, I did get defiant. She'd hit me across the face and I'd just turn the other cheek. So,
Paragraph 7. Oh, 6, sorry.
in 1972 and 73, I started having counselling sessions with Selwyn Leeks. I was admitted to Manawharawa for about 3 weeks. The first impression I had of Selwyn Leeks was that he was a nice guy. But that was just a front. He was actually a snake sitting in the grass. He was a bastard.
Continue on to 7. Thank you, Ellen.
I remember the night that I was taken out to Lake Alice by my father. I was in my bedroom and I was rolling up a cigarette out of newspaper because both my parents smoked and I thought it was cool. I was 12 at the time. Now, I was blowing the smoke out my window and being a dumbass, I could still smell it in my room, so I opened up the room that goes into the kitchen off my bedroom and I fanned the smoke out. Well, they smelt it. My dad thought that I was trying to light a fire. Well, he put me in the car and he said, "That's it, you're out of here." Now, on the way to Lake Alice, I tried to explain that I was just smoking cigarettes. Well, he didn't listen. He had an object in mind or objective, sorry, and that was to put me in Lake Alice. To me, I thought it was either me to go or his wife to go, and well, he wasn't going to have either that. So that's when I was taken to Lake Alice Hospital.
And keep going on to paragraph 8. Thanks, Ellen.
As I explained, I was taken to Lake Alice by my father the same evening. It's my understanding that my father told him I had behavioural and become increasingly bizarre, and that I had tried to light fire in my room. As I said out above, that's not what happened. Social report has got this documented for the 1st of July 1975.
And you wanted to set this out to show the relationship that your father and Leeks had prior to, and your belief that they had...
Well, I couldn't understand. How can I go from a house to an institution within half an hour? Who had the right to incarcerate me? You know, was that legal?
And if we could actually bring up Alan's Exhibit 5, 316005. And this document is a Department of Social Welfare letter by R.D. Keane dated the 25th of July 1975. Sorry, the next document. And this document talked about the fact that the director, R.D. Keane, of Department of Social Welfare, didn't think you had an actual disorder to be admitted to Lake Alice either. And it'll come up on the screen soon, paragraph 2. Perhaps I'll just read that out.
Here it is. I think we're getting there now.
There we go.
Is
If we could highlight paragraph 2.
Thank you.
And Mr., that would be your dad's name there, a nurse at Lake Alice Hospital, had admitted his son to that hospital, supposedly suffering from an acute psychiatric disorder. And they say no actual disorder was recognised. And so the admission just came from that evening that you talked about and the relationship that Leeks and your father had, and what you say, your idea that your father just wanted you out of the house.
That's correct.
And I think that's very important for you to make clear to the Commission as well. Thank you, Alan. So if I could take you back to your statement, paragraph 11, admission to Lake Alice, and if you could just continue to read from there, Alan.
I was admitted to Lake Alice, excuse me, on the 8th of May 1974. I was 13 years old. I was discharged on the 29th of January 75 after spending 9 months locked up there for no reason. Lake Alice discharge notes dated 29th of January 1975 and Dr. Leeks' discharge letter dated 7th of February 1975. I think I was in Villa 9 or 11.
Keep going.
I do not believe that I should have been admitted to Lake Alice. I was physically and mentally well, 12-year-old, when I was admitted. A report obtained from my school at the time, which is Rangatiki Intermediate. I've got Rangatiki College here, which is incorrect. It was, Rangatiki Intermediate, indicated that until my removal from Lake Alice, removal to Lake Alice, I was cooperative, hopeful, no trouble at all. The principal of Rangatiki College, dated 10th of November 1974. I'd always done my schoolwork and tried hard to please. I'd liked games and always played with good sportsmanship. I was described as having an outgoing personality and that most children liked me. I was also described as generally clean and tidy. The principal recorded that my father had been to school prior, and the principal even said to him that he had not noticed any change in my behaviour or attitude at school, and that I was a pleasant and helpful child. Despite that, I was removed from school and sent to Lake Alice, as I mentioned above.
In paragraph 14.
I think that this shows that my father had been thinking about putting me into Lake Alice for a while. It wasn't just the one smoking incident in my bedroom. He wanted to get rid of me, and Leeks was quite happy to have another child to torture. So it was just hiding and then chucked in my room or whatever. Yeah.
If I could take you back to your statement at paragraph 16, Alan, in your own time.
I was placed in a villa with other kids who were clearly extremely unwell. My sleep would be interrupted by people talking to themselves, screaming, fighting with other children, some having epileptic fits. I understand there were a number of schizophrenic children at the hospital. It was a very scary place for me, and no doubt others.
The next paragraph you start to talk about punishment. Could you read on from there, Alan?
Saturday mornings, Selwyn Leeks would turn up in his van, and it was a Volkswagen Combi. We all knew it, we all feared it, Saturday mornings anyway. The lounge door would be locked, and staff would meet with him, and they'd have a meeting looking through the glass window at us in the lounge. You know, you could have heard a pin drop, eh? Everybody was shit scared. There would be constant fear on Saturday mornings as everyone sat around looking at each other thinking, sure, I've been a good boy this week. If they said you'd been bad, then you were taken for ECT, or you could be punished by being given drugs, as I will describe below. Excuse me.
So that terror was there every Saturday morning, every time you saw his van come up?
That was the extreme time, but there was terror always, 24/7. It didn't matter whether it was Saturday and specifically, because it didn't matter on days. If you was selected, you were punished. And, yeah.
Just want to talk to you a little bit about what that punishment was. So in paragraph 18, you start to talk about ECT. Can you read from there, please, Alan?
Thankfully, I did not get ECT. My records from social welfare show that I did not cause much trouble at all at Lake Alice. I tended to keep them myself. Even Selwyn Leeks said I was a delightful child to have around. There was good reason for that. I was terrified of the punishment that I'd seen given to other kids. ECT was regularly used as punishment. The ECT machine would be wheeled into the dining room to scare us into being quiet or being good. As soon as we saw the machine, everybody stopped talking and we would be silent. The only reason for the presence, of the ECT machine was as a threat of punishment.
And what would happen after that? They didn't just bring it out and keep it there. Did they then take children away? What would happen after that, Alan?
No. It would stay there until we'd finished dinner. Yeah. Now, there didn't have to be certain times, say, that they electrocuted kids. You know, I don't know how they decided who or what, or when they were going to get it, but you heard the screams, you heard the cries. Yeah, it was horrible.
And just the presence of the machine was enough?
The presence of the machine brought instant silence. Yeah. And I remember on Friday evenings we'd get fish and chips for tea. Well, everybody likes fish and chips. Everybody was happy. One time, everybody's happy. And as soon as it got too noisy, out would come the machine. Well, yeah.
And then at paragraph 20, you start to talk about what you would see and hear. Could you read that for us in your own time, Alan?
From the dormitory where I was placed, you could hear the screams of the boys being given shock treatment. I regularly saw people or kids getting dragged into the surgery. I'm quite sure it was a punishment and not part of the treatment. I wasn't stupid and I could put two and two together. I saw people misbehave, saw them threatened with the punishment, saw them dragged away, heard their screams. You could see the hit marks on their legs. after they'd been tortured. Yeah. I might not have been given ECT for punishment, but I did get drug injections for punishment. I remember one time I was punished for misbehaving, but I was just being a normal 13-year-old boy running around, being noisy. Me and a group of boys were taken back to the villa and told to wait outside the surgery. I remember the deathly silence. There were 6 of us. The screams, the line getting shorter, and you couldn't go anywhere. You had nowhere to go. You just knew your number was coming up because I was number 6 in line. Yep. And when my turn came, I was given formaldehyde. Yeah.
In paragraph 24, you talk about how that was given to you. Could you read that too, please?
Yep. Yeah, good. When I was bloody used for it, that's for real.
And you say yourself at paragraph 25 that you've had 2 hips replaced and spinal surgery, but that pain was, the pain of formaldehyde was even more than those.
That's correct. I've had both hips replaced. I've had 2 spinal surgeries. Yeah, that was painful. I had sciatica. But formaldehyde, that takes the list for pain. Yeah. Yeah, horrible.
And you say you only received it one time, but that was enough.
I learned my lesson. And that's when I began keeping to myself. I was lucky. I had my friend here, Douglas, and we sort of hit it off and kept to ourselves. You know, we weren't running around noisy and survival, I think you'd call it. Yeah.
Could you start reading from paragraph 27? Thank you, Alan.
I was also given a drug that we called the truth drug. I don't know the name of it, but someone here will. It was different from formaldehyde. I was given it by Selwyn Leeks. Like I said, I don't know what it was called. But he would give it to us, and then you would start to feel wasted out of it. It felt like you were asleep, but you weren't. You could still talk. I would wake up in a padded cell, all alone. It was completely dark, and the windows were shaded. Yeah. I only received this the one time. As soon after I was given that drug, whatever I said must have triggered alarm bells because I was released from Lake Alice Hospital.
You start reading from paragraph 30.
As I said, Dr. Leeks ran the adolescent unit. My father worked in the adolescent unit until I was admitted. And then they moved him to somewhere else. Like I said, I'd see him now and again passing, but that's it.
Keep going.
I had a few meetings with Selwyn Leeks. He was placid to talk to, but you couldn't go against him. He was the boss. The less you had to do with him, the better. It wasn't good to have him around. You know, he just brought consistent fear. And I suppose that was his strategy. I don't know.
You could start reading from paragraph 33.
I went to school in Lake Alice with about a dozen other boys It wasn't every day, it was just now and then. I don't remember how often, and I don't remember what we learnt. There's not really much more to say about the school. I remember having breaks, sitting on the steps outside. There would be some of the other patients, adult patients, who were also in Lake Alice, walking past by. If they had wanted to, it would have been easy for them to do anything they wanted to us. Luckily, it didn't happen to me. I just kept to myself and I didn't communicate with them.
When you say some of the adults, what adults are you talking about there?
Patients of Lake Alice. Grown people, walking along, picking up cigarette butts, unwashed. Street people, I suppose you'd call them. Yeah.
So they had access to the children. Were you at that time?
Well, yes, they could have, yeah. Like they were just walking by, you know. Like I said, I was never physically abused in a sexual way, but I certainly was mentally abused.
And that's the terror that you talk about every day being in Lake Alice.
That's correct. You know, you live at a place for 9 months, and every now and then you'd have a laugh. Dennis Heseltine and Terry Conlon, they befriended me. Now, Dennis Heseltine used to play us music. He'd organised games for us, and you could have a laugh with him, you know, which was a pretty rare commodity in Lake Alice. He took me home for the one Christmas, and yeah, felt like I was in a family. You know, sitting around the table laughing and being normal. Now, Terry Conlon, he used to do the same. He'd take me home for a weekend to get me out of Lake Alice. Now, these guys were friends with my father. And I use that word father very lightly. But I take my hat off to both of them too, eh? They put a sense of normality in a place that was whole.
And to be clear to all of us in the room, Dennis Heseltine and Terry Collins were nurses at Lake Alice.
Yeah, that's correct. Dennis Heseltine and Terry Conlon, they were nurses in the adolescent unit. Yep, correct.
And just to continue on to paragraph 35, please, Alan.
For 7 months, I was exposed to the stresses of life in a psychiatric hospital, dealing with the threat of ECT and drugs as punishment, actual drug punishment, and generally the horror of being locked up as a child against my will.
And at 37, paragraph 37, you note that a psych report was prepared in order for you to be considered for discharge, and the report noted that you were above an intellectual scale and the only thing that was affecting you behaviourally was your home life. Would I agree with that?
I most certainly would.
Can I just stop? I've just had a message, and it's just about the photo that you've got there. There's some reasons why it's important that it be kept private. The commissioners would very much like to see it, but I wonder if we could just remove it from public view. this stage. Is that all right? We'll certainly have a look at it before your evidence is over, Alan. Is that all right?
That's fine.
Thank you.
Do you think it would be appropriate for Alan to describe what that photo is and the reason?
Whenever you're ready to do that, of course, yes.
If we could go to paragraph 38 when you're ready, Alan. And your evidence in these paragraphs talks about how you were discharged from Lake Alice.
In November 1974, I understand that my father approached social welfare and requested that a Section 12 agreement be prepared for me. He entered into that agreement on the 29th of January 75.
And this agreement was to put you into state care, was it? To not be returned back to your dad?
I was actually given a choice of going into a social welfare home or going back to my father's. So the choice was easy on that. I went to Dampier Ave in Palmerston North, a boys' home.
And if you start reading from paragraph 39.
I found out later that my mum didn't know anything about me being admitted to Lake Alice or my father trying to Section 12 me. It actually took her a long time to even find where I was. I understand that when she found out, she contacted the doctors so she could get custody of me. My father agreed and the Section 12 agreement was terminated. I went to live with my mother.
Paragraph 40, sorry.
Yep. In July 1975, I went to live with my mother, who had remarried in a place called Cheviot in the South Island. I was adopted by her husband and took the name of Hendricks, which I've kept to this day. I was glad she found me. After Lake Alice, there was no way I wanted to go home to my father. How could he do that? To your own kid. To lock me up in Lake Alice knowing what they did to kids here. I remember seeing them on the streets in a caravan park in Wanganui. It'd be 27 years ago. I chased him down, my father. And I'd heard that he'd been hassling my sister. I'd heard it through friends. So I confronted him. I approached him. He didn't even recognise me. And I just said to him, how can you live with yourself? And he said, oh, well, you had problems. I said, well, the only problem was you. And I said, you've been hassling my sister now. If you hassle her anymore, I'm going to come and sort you out. He looked at me and he says, don't you threaten me. I said, look, I'm not threatening you. I'm telling you. I walked away from there and the adrenaline was just pumping, but I won that fight.
That was the last time you saw him?
That's the last time, yep.
If I could take you back to paragraph 42, please, Alan. And here you talk about complaints and the Grant Cameron proceedings you went through. Could you read those two paragraphs for me, please?
I'm not sure how I originally got involved in the Grant Cameron proceedings. It could have been through watching the 60 Minutes program that I was involved with. He contacted me that way. I can't remember. I don't know if I was in the first first group or the second group, the whole process was all to me it was all about Grant Cameron, really. That's all I can say about that. There was no closure. I even received a letter from Helen Clark and for an apology. Well, that photo that I had out here was the last time I was part of a family. And I haven't seen them since.
That was your siblings in that photo, is it, Alan?
That's correct.
When was the last time that you saw them?
I saw my brother when my son was 2. So that's 28 years. Now, my sister up from me, I haven't seen her since I was admitted to Lake Alice, and my other 2 sisters, I don't know where they are, I don't know if they're alive.
So the last time you were all together was before Lake Alice and after you were separated?
Yeah. Yeah, this photo here, it must be about, I don't know, 5, I suppose, so. Yeah, 7 years maybe before I was admitted to Lake Alice, so it's 50 odd years that I haven't seen my family.
Would you like the registrar to bring it up? We'd like to look at the photo if you'd like us to see it.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
I'm the little one.
You're the
Alan
little-
is the baby.
You're the baby. You can hold it anyway. Baby's there.
And I know this was important for you to bring today, wasn't it, Alan? Because one of the biggest impacts you've told me that Lake Alice and State Care has had has been the separation within your family and the effect it's had on your family.
What can you say about that? You know, I wouldn't recognise them if I walked down the street and passed them. You know, that's my right. That's my family. Now, my brother there is a lot older than me, and my sisters, or my 2 older sisters, are older than me. You know, if Selwyn Leeks was there to help people, why couldn't have he contacted them for me to go and stay, you know? I'll never get that back. Ever.
Thank you for bringing that photo in to show us today, Alan. I want to speak a little bit more with you about the effects of Lake Alice and State Care on your life. So if we could go back to paragraph 44 when you're ready.
As soon as I was able to start working and earning money, I made a commitment to myself that I would not let Lake Alice to affect my ability to provide a life for myself. The best way to do that is to stay out of jail, keep a constant employment. I've worked in gold mines in Australia. I've driven heavy machinery. I've driven graders underground. I'm now a security officer and have been so for the last 3 years. I've brought my boy up here with the ethics. You work hard. Now he's got a terrific job. He's earning excellent money. He's got 15 people under him. He's got a company vehicle. So what's the word I'm looking for? I installed some good ethics in my son, and I'm very proud of him.
And I know you talked about always having employment, but you also say in your statement, I fought hard with my demons inside so that I could just keep a job and people wouldn't look down on me. Getting dizzy spells, oh, you also got dizzy spells as well, so you might have had employment, but you were always struggling. Is that right?
Yeah, well, to a certain degree, you know, with my hips being done and 2 spinal surgeries, but even the stigma of Lake Alice, it just stays there. You know, the last couple of weeks it's just been yuck. But we're getting there, me and my friend here. I told him from the beginning, no, we'd ride this wave together, and that's what we're going to do.
And you're very lucky to have found each other in the lead up to this inquiry. And once again, thank you guys for both being here.
I haven't laughed so much since we've been in touch, sometimes 4 times a day. Brothers from another mother.
If I could just take you back to the statement, Alan, paragraph 46. If you could read from there, please.
For years after Lake Alice, even now, I simply withdraw into myself. I do not communicate with anybody, and I certainly don't take fools lightly. I guess I became a robot, doing what people told me to do, being where I'm supposed to be, and saying what I'm supposed to say, because that's how I survived in Lake Alice. That fear just doesn't go away because we were released. I've done my best to battle against that fear, but it comes back every now and then and haunts me, yeah.
You keep going to paragraph 47, please, Alan.
Although I've done my best to get on with my life, the whole experience at the hands of doctors and nurses, and also the authorities in charge of Lake Alice, has had a traumatic impact on my life. It has affected my quality, my life, and my memories. I've been exposed to pain and hearing others exposed to pain in Lake Alice. Those memories haunt me every day and will be with me forever. When you're 12 and see fear all around you, it's a frightening experience. You can't put words to it, really. You know, you're there and there's nothing you can do about it.
And you've talked about the stigma that you've had to deal with ever since coming out of Lake Alice, and I just wanted to read a line that you provided in your statement. I have always had considerable guilt and embarrassment regarding my time in Lake Alice, and in particular, the fact that people might find out and brand me as having a mental disorder. I do not and never did, but people don't know that, and they don't know my story. And that's what you have to live with all the time, isn't that right, Alan?
That's correct.
Have you told much people about you being in Lake Alice?
My son, his mother, and a couple of close friends, and that's it. Like, when I was asked to come to this hearing and I had to take time off work, And I explained that I had to go to a hearing, and they said, "Oh, what's that all about?" And I just said, "Look, I can't tell you. It's involved with the CIP. Sorry." So, yeah.
I just want to take you back to, we're nearly at the end, and thank you, Alan, for taking your time to take us through this. Paragraph 51 of your statement.
I now have a family and employed in Whangarei. When my son was born, I made a commitment that I'd love him and treat him like a father should, not like the way I was treated. The cycle needed to be broken, and I'm happy to say that I have a loving relationship with my son. He lives in Tauranga now. He's given me 3 mokopunas, who I love dearly, and we get on great. We're how a father and son should be, and I certainly didn't learn it from my father.
And just to paragraph 52.
To get to that stage has been very difficult, though. I have had great difficulty in forming and maintaining relationships, as I do not express myself but tend to bottle up my feelings. As I said, that is behaviour that I learned in Lake Alice. A coping mechanism, and that feeling will never go away.
Just want to conclude with your statement for you to read the sections of what you want from the Royal Commission at paragraph 53, Alan.
The main thing that I want from the Commission is for someone to step up and take accountability and responsibility for what happened to us. All the kids, really. All of them. I want a public apology. There's no point in government letters. It doesn't mean anything. Everyone in New Zealand needs to hear that apology and why they are apologising.
And it's important as well that you say that some sort of appreciation should be given to those who were trying to help you in there at the time.
Most definitely Dennis Heseltine and Terry Conlon. They had their hearts in the right place, and they tried to make a flower out of a weed, I suppose. Yeah. At least you could get a laugh out of them. We didn't laugh often, that's for sure, but they did help us.
Thank you for taking us through your statement, Alan. We really appreciate you sharing your story. Is there anything else you'd like to say before Doug makes a short statement himself?
I've tried to take my own life. I lost my family when I was a kid. I walked out of my house, I was nearly 3 old when that Grant Cameron fiasco carried on. But I was getting verbal with my partner, my son's mother. So I moved out and I knew my boy was safe. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Alan. Doug, would you like to speak to the statement that you've prepared?
I didn't know I was going to be saying anything today, but I come as a support person for Alan. So I just wrote a little bit here, but I don't think I can read it. Can I get someone to read it for me?
Did you want me to read it?
Yes, please.
So So this is the statement that Doug has prepared in summary of his evidence that has already been provided to the Royal Commission. My name is Douglas John Matthews. I am 60 years old and I am a survivor from Lake Ellis Hospital. I think all survivors from Lake Ellis will have mental and physical abuse from their time there. I have hidden Lake Ellis from family and friends for 46 years and have only opened up about it since I turned 60 years old and reconnected with Alan Hendricks, who was at Lake Ellis at the same time. What I would like to see at this inquiry is that all survivors get proper justice from this. I want to see accountability, decent compensation, and full closure for all the survivors of Lake Ellis. I can't actually see this happening for me, as all of my Lake Ellis files have been wiped. But I hope all survivors have some kind of closure. I hope that will be the case. All Lake Ellis survivors received life sentences. Life sentences from the mental and physical abuse, while those accountable were able to roam the country and the world free of pain and living normal lives with no remorse. And that's the statement that has been prepared by Doug. Did you want to add anything, Doug?
No. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for reading that, Ms. Jones. Ms. Thomas.
Do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
Yes. Commissioner Gibson would like to ask you a question.
Thanks so much, Alan. First, an acknowledgement of the father you have been, the proud father you've been, and the role that you have, that you've broken a cycle there. Talking about some of the conversations you had with your father, it seemed like he was threatening and was well aware that Lake Ellis was a place of punishment rather than therapy. Is that how you would describe it?
I couldn't have said it better myself. He knew bloody well what was going on there. He was part of it.
And you think that was the same of most of the nurses? We focused a lot previously on leaks, but the nurses, the staff were aware that what was going on there was punishment, or is that the right word? It's definitely not therapy.
It certainly wasn't therapy.
And that's how the other nurses would have understood it, do you think?
They worked as a team. Now, I don't know how they got their ideas and that, but like I said, Dennis Heseltine and Terry Cotton were two guys that were in the right job because they knew what they were doing. But the rest of it was pain and torture. That's correct.
Yeah. Thanks, Alan.
The only question I have for both of you is whether, I understand, Alan, you've had lots of medical interventions through your physical things. Have you ever had any counselling or support or help with the trauma that you suffered as a result of Lake Ellis?
No.
And you, Doug, have you ever had anything?
Oh, I think my family tried to get me some when I moved to Auckland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're both buried and had to try and cope with this, what you called a life sentence, on your own without any assistance.
Never smoked, but I like a beer.
You like the beer?
I think a lot of them turned to either drugs or alcohol.
Yes, yeah. Okay. So I just want to say that, and I think you're already being supported by our wellbeing staff here.
Yep.
Do take advantage of anything that they can offer you. It's a small but important thing, because I think, as Alan said, while he's been preparing for this, life's become hellish again, because it's brought it all to the surface, and we don't want you to suffer any more harm than is possibly necessary. And that brings me to my second point. We've heard from many survivors already, and we'll hear from more. Many of them raised these issues early, tried to get resolution, and have in some way dealt more or less with what happened to them. But both of you men have held it in the whole time and have kept it to yourselves, and that makes your coming forward and making your witness statements public in the way you have even more remarkable. So your courage and bravery in doing that is something that we recognise and applaud. I think, Alan, you'd say you're doing it for the greater good. Would that be right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So the people of Aotearoa New Zealand must be very grateful to you that you're prepared to expose this deep hurt and shame which you've described like that.
But there were probably hundreds of kids,
Yes,
you know?
yes. And you are their voice.
Well, I hope it works.
Yes, it's worked. We've heard taking this into account. The last thing I want to do is, in the back of your brief of evidence, there are some documents which are nursing notes and all the rest of it. And you say that you live with the stigma, and so because this is public, I wanted just to say what DG Page, a district psychologist, said of you when he assessed you at some stage on the 11th of December 1974. And he said this, and this is not disputed anywhere in your records: Alan is a highly intelligent adolescent who has not been able to function anywhere near this ability due to a severe breakdown within his family.
Thank you.
You had no mental illness whatsoever. That's quite plain from your records, and I think it needs to be put in the public domain that you'd never had any illness whatsoever.
Yes, please.
Well, it's right there now, and people are watching and listening. So thank you both sincerely, and please go away, rest, and take whatever help we can offer you. Thank you. We'll take the agenda.